Am I the asshole for getting a paternity test on my son who doesn't look like me? I posted this on our relationship advice but it was removed because apparently it belongs here. I'm a 29-year-old white guy. My wife is 30 and black. We have 2 kids, a 3-year-old girl and a 5-year-old boy. My wife got pregnant with our son early in our relationship. We had only been together a year. We got married because she got pregnant. Fortunately for us, we are actually happy. When my son was born I accepted him as mine. However, I couldn't help noticing how little he looked like me. He is noticeably darker than my wife. He doesn't look half white. My family and friends have asked if I'm sure he's mine. I had doubts, but I initially decided to trust my wife. I loved my son regardless. When our son was 2, my wife had our daughter. I had no doubt she's mine. She looks just like me. She even has my blue eyes. I never realized how powerful it is to know a child is yours. I bonded with her easier because there wasn't the question of paternity dangling over our heads. My family bonded with her faster too. Her resemblance to me convinced me that my son is not mine. I tried to always treat them equally as I see them both as my children. But I realized I was beginning to resent my son. It felt unfair that I had to care for someone else's child. I also began to resent my wife because I felt she had betrayed me. I finally got a paternity test in secret. I was relieved to learn that my son is in fact mine. Genetics are weird. Anyways, that was 4 months ago and my relationship with my wife and son improved dramatically. I feel much closer to him now that I know he's mine. My wife and I have been so happy that we were talking about a 3rd child. I confessed to my wife I got a paternity test. I hated keeping the secret and I thought she would understand given how much he doesn't look like me. She flipped out. She asked me if I ever doubted our daughter, and when I said no she called me racist. It's not true. I didn't prefer my daughter because of her whiter features. I just knew she was mine. She also said that I made our son feel unloved for no reason for all those years. I said that's bull. Even when I didn't believe my son was mine, I treated him as though he were. My wife says she wants to move out and take our children after the quarantine. It's been about a week and a half and I'm still on the sofa. I hoped she would have calmed down by now but things haven't changed. She's just so furious with me for not trusting her and for in her eyes, denying my son because he's dark. She barely talks to me unless it's about the kids. I don't want to lose my family. Here's where I turn to you, Reddit. Is it so awful that I had doubts? I still took care of him. I don't understand why something like this is wrecking my marriage. I think she is overreacting. So, AITA? AITA, she is absolutely not overreacting. You not only did not trust your wife, you let your ignorance get in the way of you bonding with your child. I mean, what did you think was going to happen when you had biracial children? It's not always a perfect mocha mixture of both parents. You may get that. You may get a kid who is white as a vampire or as dark as Wesley Snipes. You really need to suck it up and beg for forgiveness and then you need to fix that ignorant way of thinking that you have. Your son is going to need you. Being a black man in this world is not easy. He even says his family didn't bond with him as much as his lighter daughter. Sounds like being racist lies in the family too. Poor kid deserves better. Those poor kids and that poor wife. What a nightmare to trust someone and marry them and have kids with them and then find out that they're a racist. And that their family didn't bond as well with the darker kid. Ugh, my skin is crawling. I don't know what the wife will end up deciding but if she chooses to stay with OP, who is massively AITA, he's gonna have to move worlds to prove himself to be a decent human and he'll have to do more than that if his son grows up and finds out about all this. No one bonded with him but OP also totally treated his kids the same. I call bullshit. He admits that both him and his family bonded with the light-skinned kid better. He mentions being resentful toward the boy and wife. And you took that to mean he treated both kids the same? No, this person is calling bullshit on the fact that despite saying he started to resent the son, OP goes on to say that he never treated his son differently. What I don't understand is why he never suspected that his daughter wasn't his. He was already convinced that his wife cheated once. So what? She couldn't have cheated on him with a white man this time? He thought that she'd had one affair but trusted her to not have a second one? Right, edit. Newborn infants look like no one but tiny aliens most of the time. Seems like his daughter came out whiter and he was instantly thrilled. Edit. Added a word. I don't really agree. I think there's plenty of fodder for calling out racism in the OP, but lots of babies can have recognizable features of their parents, including mixed babies. I have a friend that is white, had a kid with a black woman, and their kid basically has his features with the mum's skin tone and hair, and it was noticeable from pretty much infancy. My biggest problem with your whole story is this. She also said that I made our son feel unloved for no reason for all those years. I said that's bull. Even when I didn't believe my son was mine, I treated him as though he were. I still took care of him, which entirely contradicts this. I tried to always treat them equally as I see them both as my children, but I realized I was beginning to resent my son. It felt unfair that I had to care for someone else's child. I also began to resent my wife because I felt she had betrayed me. You didn't treat your children equally. For 5 years a significant part of you believed your son wasn't yours. You really think that didn't affect your parenting? Your son is young enough that you'll probably be able to undo any damage, but you're refusing to accept that it had any effect on your parenting when it clearly did. No, you shouldn't have doubted your wife. But most of all, this suspicion of yours that was based on nothing except his skin color, which might very well lighten a bit when he grows up. BTW, maybe your wife was darker when she was a baby, affected the way you treated your son. That's what makes it a. Your child didn't do anything to deserve that. You should feel guilty for treating him so unfairly, and you should accept your wife's criticism of you, because she's not overreacting. This might wreck your marriage because it goes to the heart of a very basic trust that needs to exist between you and your wife as partners, but also between you and your wife as parents. She needs to be able to trust that you won't love your daughter and hate your son, just because you see more of yourself in your daughter. You should try to repair the damage you did. Admit your faults and you might have a chance of keeping your family together. But I swear it wasn't racist. Yes, because we all totally believe that if your wife was white and had a white son who looked nothing like you and your family would immediately assume she was a two-timing liar and the child wasn't yours. We totally think you still would have done all this and not had the normal people reaction of LOL genes are funny and paid enough attention to your kid to notice which family members he does look like. One kid is too dark so can't be yours, and the other has blue eyes so is? That's the evidence? I'm biracial, but usually mistaken as being full black. My white mother and I have completely different skin, eye color, hair, but when I stand next to her you can see I'm her daughter. It's in the shape of our eyes, our nose, our face. There's no mention of the son's cheekbones, his smile, his mannerisms, personality, or anything meaningful of why he must be someone else's. Just his skin color and the daughter's blue eyes as a contrast of a child worthy of being confident in. But yeah, totally not racist. I think OP needs to go to therapy, and I think earnestly going to therapy about this and sharing his breakthroughs with her is the only way they even have a chance of truly healing. I'm so confused as to why OP felt compelled to tell his wife that he got a paternity test. He knew telling her would only hurt her and would accomplish nothing, yet he did it anyway. Either he's incredibly stupid, or he enjoys hurting his wife's feelings. I'm going with the latter. OP is the type of guy who would feel compelled to tell you that he had a sex dream about your mom. Like, why the fuck would I need to know that? You should go to the grave with that shit. I don't care if you feel guilty or icky keeping a secret. Deal with that on your own. To make himself feel better, unburden himself from the guilt he felt. He wanted her to say it's okay, I understand, you're not a bad guy. Ridiculous. You're NTA for having doubts and looking for answers, but you're duffus for telling her about it afterwards. Pretty sure you'd feel the same way if she unfairly accused you of cheating on her, because that's what you basically did. NTA. She is definitely overreacting. You took a test and told her that you didn't want to keep a secret. What would she rather do not know? And what if she took a test to make sure it was you that was the father and not some other guy? Would you overreact? Personally, I think she should have been a bit more understanding. Like, what if your daughter didn't look like you and she made sure it was yours? I understand your point, but I would say it not for the test but for the fact that he was resenting his own child for not resembling him, and his whole family did not bond with him, as the case with his lighter daughter. You came to the wrong sub to post this. Most of this sub has no compassion whatsoever for men that have been victims of paternity test. In part this is understandable since all census have showed this sub has a big women majority, and I think they are going to have even less compassion for you since you only though you were one. They despise paternity test, have no idea why men would have a hard time bonding with a child that isn't theirs or think isn't theirs, think that is not possible to love and trust your partner and also want a paternity test. In secret most men will tell you they understand, so I would look for an opinion in some place where this topic isn't a big taboo with low empathy for men and fathers. Oh, you respot on AITA is ridiculous when it comes to paternity tests. Women know 100-point symbol. The baby is theirs. Why can't men? Because they don't know what it's like and because society in general doesn't treat paternity fraud as important. Just look at France where paternity tests without the permission of the mother are illegal. And because society treat most victims of paternity fraud as perpetrators and doesn't care about their feelings or struggles. Yes, situations like APS are why I'm of the firm belief that paternity tests should just be done automatically, even if both parents are sure. It saves hurt feelings of trust when a doctor tells you it's just a mandatory requirement. I'm a fan of Judge Lake saying mama's baby, father's maybe. What I don't think some of the women on this sub understand is that men who have trusted their partners 100% and didn't get a paternity test ended up in a situation where they were raising a kid that wasn't theirs because the mother cheated. The response, if you trusted me you wouldn't need a paternity test, is a cop-out in my opinion, because I can trust someone with my life and they still can choose to betray me if they wanted to. As a man you can never actually have 100% proof that the child is yours without getting a paternity test, and I feel that some women don't have the empathy to understand how bad a feeling that can lead to be. Nah, she should be upset at you for doubting her and denying your son while you took care of him when you weren't sure he was yours. It appears as though you were more affectionate post-paternity test. She must have noticed the improvement in the marriage and your relationship with your son, and now she knows why there was an improvement, which is why she says you denied your son. I understand why you did what you did with regards to a paternity test, so I don't think you're an arsehole for that. But coming to your wife about it was a move that transcends stupidity. Loki though, this sub does call dads that don't get paternity tests when they're not sure massive idiots. I don't think I've seen anyone say he's TAFE for getting the paternity test. What makes him an arsehole is that 1. His logic was that his son was too dark to be his. 2. He waited years to get a test rather than addressing it when he first had suspicions. 3. He allowed his doubt to affect his relationship with his son, to the point that he resented the child and preferred his daughter who looks more like him. And 4. After getting the test and assuaging his concerns, he thought it would be a fantastic idea to lay all of this baggage on his wife and was shocked that she was upset about it. The above reasons make him TAFE, not the paternity test itself. Update. Am I the arsehole for getting a paternity test on my son who doesn't look like me? After being ripped to shreds on my first post, I didn't plan to ever log into this account again. Some recent events have persuaded me to update you all on what's been going on. I'll just get right to it. My wife and I are separated currently. I moved out so she and the kids could stay in our home. I'm staying with my parents for now. I don't get to see my kids as often as I would like to. When I have a more stable living situation we'll have joint custody of them. It's been very hard on me and the kids. I talk to them on the phone every night, and they both keep asking when I'm coming home. It breaks my heart that I can't answer that question. My daughter is taking it the worst. I feel awful that her world had been turned upside down by her own parents. I miss my family. I miss seeing my kids every day. I miss my wife. Our relationship has been put in limbo for now. She says she needs space to process and doesn't know if she will be able to forgive me. I've apologized in every way that I know how to. At this point I just have to give her the space she wants and hope she calms down. It would be horrible for us to throw away what we built. If separating has been this hard on the kids, divorce is going to shatter them. She seems open to seeking couples counseling. It gives me some hope we can work past this. As for Reddit, I admit I didn't want to hold myself accountable before. I couldn't see how my actions were subconsciously harmful to my son. It was never my intention to be racist, but I did treat my son differently due to his skin color when you strip it down to its roots. I realized how bad I fucked up when I felt ashamed thinking my wife has probably told her family why we separated. They used to think really highly of me. Now they all probably think I'm a racist. I have no one to blame for that but myself. With all the craziness going on in the world, I know that I need to be more aware of my actions. My kids deserve to have their family to be safe haven from racism. It scares me thinking about the type of world I will send them out into where they could be racially profiled in most places. I can't imagine if it were my son on the news instead of one of those other poor guys. I'll never let anything get in the way of my relationship with him again. Thanks all.
Walk through with her attitude. Gucci on her neck, I can't be mad at you. Yeah, I just do the shit I feel I had to do. Visa swipe every time she get mad at you. Yeah, and baby got an attitude. Okay, little baby got an attitude. Yeah, but shawty on my latitude. Okay, little baby on my latitude. Yeah, yeah, baby I've been grinding all week.